I am the George Costanza first name, so I'm glad that I was able to. If anybody gets that Seinfeld reference, so for those of you that maybe didn't catch the first part of the call, I called Ronen, and he was surprised because he said most people call me Ronen, but I said, well, 47 Ronin, Ronin, it's Ronen for you, so I'd assume it has to be different. If not, what are we doing? What are we doing here, Ronen? So today we're going to talk about effective cold call strategies, how to earn more of your prospects' time. And Ronen has this great roadmap that he's built out, this great way that he not only opens his calls, but works people through the calls in a form and fashion that's not only valuable for him to end up moving to the next step, but also valuable for them to get some insights and receive some healthy candor on why the call is happening, why it's important, and what the relevancy of the next steps would be for them and how it can change their business. So Ronen, I'm really just going to open up the floor to you. Yeah. You're the cold call mastermind here. So walk me through these concepts, walk me through the opener and the strategies that you're using when you're cold calling and how you're getting more of your prospects' time.
Yeah, my pleasure. And Chet, thanks for having me on, man. Longtime fan here. So the first thing I'll say when it comes to like call openers, and this is the thing that so many people miss, is like, it doesn't matter what you say as much as it matters how you say it. And so breaking that down, like, let's peel that back and get tactical with it. I can say some crazy stuff as a call opener and it'll go really well. And I could say the same crazy stuff and it'll go poorly. So one example that went viral for me not too long ago was, hey, it's Ronen. This is a cold call. Do you want to roll the dice? So if you pay attention to how to deliver that specific opener, feel free to steal it if you're a caller who likes being comedic with your opener. It is about comedic timing and pause. And the first thing I see a lot of SDRs do wrong is they will say that fast, monotone, and they'll cut themselves off. They won't let the pause resonate at the end. So when it comes down to it with openers, usually the best openers are effective because they're slower. There's an element of confidence, a positive, friendly, and warm tone, or even a comedic tone are usually the most effective ones. I did something pretty crazy the other, what was it, like 6 weeks ago, I finished it. I spent a month, every month, testing a new call opener that I heard on the internet. And I just tracked my connect to sure, go ahead and pitch rates. And what I saw was the variance in what was happening on all those openers. And the one that ended up doing the best was actually a very, very simple, basic one that we've been taught not to do. Surprisingly, the best one was, hey, Chet. And you go, hey, who is this? Hey, Chet, it's Ronen with Stylo. How have you been? And normally the person says like, good, what's this about? Like, who is this? Yeah, it's Ronen Pessar with Stylo. And hey, look, I know no one likes getting a cold call, especially not the Monday right after a nice long weekend. So I can tell you why I'm calling, and then maybe you can decide if you want to hang up on me. Is that fair? And like, if you say that also with a chuckle, like I just did there at the end, usually gets pretty good results. Just all the same as, hey, it's Ronen. Want to roll the dice? So just to recap that, practice the speed at which you're saying it. Try to control the pace. Slow it down a lot. And when it comes to actual tonal exercise and getting comfortable with the different sounds, one really easy exercise to do is you take a phrase like, hey, it's Ronen. Is Jane available? And you get a list of emotions. You pair off with one partner and you just go back and forth and you have to say it and the partner has to guess the emotion. So it's a practice that is one I used to do with my SDR teams all the time to warm up their tonal range, essentially, of just like say things ridiculously, like say it sad, angry, excited, drunk, like whatever the emotion is you want the person to get, go for it. So that when it comes down to openers, and then from there, I kind of transition into the actual call. Tone over everything is what I say.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I remember seeing those like descript audiograms you would publish of those calls that you were having. And to me, what stood out, and maybe this is different opinion than what you were feeling when you were doing the calls, but there were some calls where I'd hear that phrase where it almost felt, what I thought worked really well was it almost felt like you were equally as curious as they were supposed to be. Because it kind of felt like this inflection where it's like, hey, you want to roll the dice? Like, I'm not sure if this is relevant for you, but you want to maybe stick around and find out. Like, it was a really good hook because I was like, yeah, I got to listen to this fucking cold call. Like, this thing is going to be off the hook. Like, I got to be a part of it. I got to listen to this. Like, I would have taken that call, and I don't take a lot of cold calls, but it was like, and it makes me think of, one of the ones I've always used was, hey, this is so and so from wherever. Does my company name sound familiar?
It's a great
If
one.
you say I was always taught from the people that taught me was you kind of got to say like, hey, I don't know if you know who I am, but do you know who I am? Like almost like, hey, I'm lost looking for a little bit of help. Hey, Ronen, does my company name sound familiar? You're like a 5-year-old kid lost in the woods looking for help. You know what I mean? You're like, hey, I
Yeah,
don't know where my
totally.
mom and dad is. Do you know where they are? Can you help me? But like some people use that and they'll be like, hey, does my company name sound familiar? Like, oh God, is it supposed to? I don't know. It doesn't. Oh my gosh, I'm in trouble, And it is so true that tonality is so key because it can either display an emotion that people will be receptive to or an emotion that people feel they should be perceiving, which is where I always got with your roll
Right.
the dice. I always felt like you were kind of curious. And so I should be curious too. And so, yeah, let's roll the dice. Let's see what's on the other side of that. Let's see if I get lucky sixes or whatever it is, or lucky, what are they doing? Craps? Is it snake eyes? But that's 2 dice. So that wouldn't even work. But yeah, let's see what I get. Yo, let's see if I get yo. So you earn their time. What's the next thing you kind of do to keep them engaged? Once I'm like, yeah, go ahead and pitch me. Like, how do you put a pitch together that's not only concise but also informative and keep someone engaged where they're just not like, yeah, okay, I've heard this
Yeah,
before, or I'm not really into buying anything. Like that's such a hard part to keep that pitch so concise and relevant to someone.
totally. Yeah. And look, you're never going to win them all. If you think you are, you don't want to be a cold caller. Like, so what we're talking about is just improvements. And this is the stuff that I teach in my boot camp, and why I'm doing this now is because it's very learnable. The process that I'm recently sticking to because of its high degree of effectiveness is a 3-step question where you're guiding the prospect down a funnel, but there's a hook before you do it. So this is how it goes. You start with that opener. The idea of the opener is first 3 to 5 seconds. Can you break a pattern so that they don't immediately go, this is a cold caller, I don't want to talk to you? That's the only job you have. Break that pattern so that they're paying attention. You have their attention. They say, sure, go ahead. Now you have permission. Congratulations. You've made it past round 1. But before you get to the boss at the end of the level, you got to keep going through a few more stages in the level. Next, I actually like that opener you used as your next question. Hey, out of curiosity, have you heard of Stylo before? Have you heard of my company before? 2 reasons why I love that as your very next question after the opener. If they say yes, you are having a very different conversation than if they say no. So why wouldn't you ask them on the off chance that they have heard of your company? Like if I'm calling for Gong, there's a high degree, like a big chance that my prospect knows my company name. They market themselves very well to their audience. And so, or from Salesforce. Oh, does Salesforce ring a bell for you? It's like, yeah, I think I've heard of the company. So that's a different conversation because then you can go down the route of like, oh yeah, tell me what you know. And now they're talking to you. And if they say no, that's okay too, because there's your opportunity to now continue to have a conversation and hook them. And I'm going to say something from here as the 3 questions that a lot of people are preaching the opposite. A lot of people teach cold callers not to do this. There's a series of 3 closed-ended questions you want to ask. Yes, no's. They're not open-ended. And there's a reason for that. The analogy is like, you're in a city, you're in New York, and you're trying to find Yankee Stadium. So first thing is you got to get to the stadium. Then once you're in the stadium, you got to get to your section. And then once you're in your section, you got to get to your seat. And that's what we're doing with prospects. We're bringing them closer and closer and closer to the thing that we are interrupting their day about. They had no idea they were going to get a phone call about. and talk about. So we have to bring them into the conversation and frame it up for them. And the best way that I like to do this is starting with a present tense yes no question. Usually it's for a lot of companies a technical question. So I'll use the example of Dooley. That's just top of mind for me. So the Dooley first question would be something like this. Hey, out of curiosity, are you guys using Salesforce? The research that I have says that you guys were using Salesforce. Is that still your CRM today? So yes or no. So that's a present state question. It's very much so. Here's the ballpark. This is what we're talking about. If you're not in Salesforce, my thing's not going to be a fit for you. If you are, great. Let's enter the ballpark. Then the second question is a current state pain question. And it might sound like this. Look, out of curiosity, do you ever get the feeling that you're leaving money on the table because your reps aren't accurately capturing all the information from their meetings in the CRM, and then their forecasts aren't reflecting that accurately? So you're trying to poke a challenge, a pain, a wound. Bilal calls it the mic drop moment. This is where I work with my in the boot camp or with my clients on like coming up with a provocative question that really twists the knife. It really gets them thinking. So in the case of Stylo, just because that was the most recent one I did, we were selling to customer support, Zendesk users, and it's sentiment-based technology that tells you how your customers are feeling in real time. And so I would ask this question. Hey, look, Chet, out of all of your support tickets you got this past month, do you already have a way of identifying which customer left their support interaction feeling the most frustrated out of all the interactions? And 9 out of 10 times the prospect would say something like, you hear them thinking. You literally hear the gears turning. That's how you know it landed. Well, I think we do. Like we do surveys, like most technologies, we're replacing an old way of doing something with a new way. And then from the present state pain, we talk about future state possibility. And this is the first and only time you're really talking about your company. And it should sound something like this. Have you ever looked at technology that allows you to automatically understand exactly how your customers are feeling the minute they write into you? So that's what we do at Stylo. We have AI that reads your customer text and assigns a very accurate sentiment to things like frustration and urgency. Would it be crazy if we found 20, maybe 30 minutes next week to explore this a bit further? So you take them down from like, are we in the ballpark? Is this something relevant to you? To what's a present state pain? Poke that pain a lot, like talk about it as much as you can, and then ask, have you ever evaluated the potential, the future possibility of what you could do using new technology? And I like to end it with a no-oriented question. Would it be crazy? Would it be insane if we spent 20 or 30 minutes sometime to explore this further? And that's usually where you start to have the real conversation. Now, notice all of those were close-ended yes-no questions.
Mm-hmm. What I love is you're kind of understanding the problem and then you're understanding the context, like why that might be a problem or why it isn't maybe a problem. The problem they probably do have isn't a problem. I think one of the calls, is I listened to a lot of those calls that you were publishing. One of them that really tickled my pickle was the you had this gentleman and you asked him that question. Do you have a way of you asked him the question about, do you have a way of measuring sentiment on those tickets and knowing exactly how the customer felt leaving that call? And he goes, yeah, we have an in-house proprietary system that we built out. And I think even commented on your LinkedIn, I said, AKA he's got a glorious spreadsheet in a Google Drive that nobody looks at until he does his QBRs with his boss. Like, you know what I mean? You love those answers because then you understand that context. They're like, hey, maybe you're measuring this and monitoring and measuring this, but you're probably not doing it in an effective way, you know? And this is why. And then you ask that question. Have you looked into how technology can do this, this, and this? And then it's like a game changer because, hey, at least he's already doing the task. It's probably not done the best way, but it's like you can tell as the expert in your industry that that's what that means. It means I have a spreadsheet that I'm the only one who really looks at because nobody really gives a crap, and I just give it to my bosses as a way to show them we're doing some reporting. but there's a better way to do it. And you're showing them that better way. That have you looked at technology that would help support that better, or would you be opposed to looking at technology? So I love how you get them there, and I love that analogy, the ballpark. Um, Ronen, I would love to hear in closing on this episode, what's something I haven't asked you that cold callers should be thinking about in terms of effective cold call strategies that can help them better on their calls?
All right, I'm just going to go rapid fire on some tactics and tips that I recommend anyone and everyone considering with cold calls. One, read your script. If there's any marketing language, any jargon in there, take it out. You got to talk at fourth, maybe fifth grade level English. It's got to be so simple that you can explain it to your nephew or niece, or maybe your 85-year-old grandmother, and they can understand it to a point. That's how simple the script needs to be. Again, remember why. The why is that you're calling people who aren't expecting your call. So there's no context for them. And the fastest way to communicate context and transfer enthusiasm, which you're trying to do both, is to give them something simple to understand that can resonate. And simple means simple English too. So words like omni-channel, or even saying like efficient this and that, let's not talk about efficiency. Talk about like something that a fourth grader would actually understand. The second thing I would say is problem stacking is next level Jedi mind tricks. If you understand enough of your persona's pains, and I say that plural because you understand that there's more than one, now you're dangerous on a cold call. Because in that second recording you alluded to earlier, he actually hit me with 4 objections. One of the objections was, yeah, we're all set in that area. And what I did in that call, and this is actually the one I like more than the one that went viral, is I was ready with another problem. And so I said, hey, just one more quick question. And then I pivoted to a second provocative question. And that was the one that he said, oh, wait, how do you do that? And then I hooked him, got his curiosity, and I was able to then position that as a meeting. The last thing I would say on like tactics and tips, if you are not writing down your objections you get on the phone, every time you get an objection, you're missing meetings, you're losing money. It's one of the easiest things to do and one of the most overlooked things to do. Write every objection down. But that's not it. Before you part ways with your document where you're writing this all down, bring it to your manager, your team, and work together on the best way to handle each and every one of those objections. Because truth be told, almost every SDR out there will only ever hear 4 to 5 types of objections, bucketed into just 2 categories. One is brush offs. They don't want to talk to you at all, or they can't ever say yes to you. Those are usually early in the call objections, like right around your opener, you're going to get a lot of brush offs. Later in the call, you're going to get real hard objections. And those are usually around competition, technical features. Sometimes security is very important for companies. Just starting to be aware of how frequently you get those, jot them down, come up with the best way to handle them. My favorite, and I'll leave you guys with this, my favorite objection to get in the entire world is, oh, that's interesting. Can you send me an email? Here's how I handle that. And usually, like, I'd say 1 out of 4, maybe 1 out of 3 end up booking. So here's what I say to that. Yeah, look, I'm happy to send you this email. But if I'm being honest with you, I've been doing this for a while. And in the 8 years I've done this, I've sent a lot of emails and I'm still waiting to hear back from a single person. Would it be really insane if we just found 30 minutes sometime when I'm not cold calling you to evaluate this in real time over a call? No strings attached, mostly informational. That way you know what we have to offer when the time might be right. And that one lands pretty well in terms of being able to take that objection and getting people to go, okay, sure, let's find time. So that's one that I love getting because I know that if I can just push a little bit more, sometimes you can get that meeting.
Yeah. And they know what they're doing. So when you call out that behavior, it's like, yeah, he got me. I'm not going to respond, but maybe I am interested enough. And that way you're not firing off a blanket email to someone who's not going to respond anyway. Cause if they're like, nah, like, I'd rather just get an email. I love that though. I've been doing this 8 years and I'm still waiting on a response. I've never got waiting on a response. It's amazing. Ronen, where can everybody engage with you if they have more questions or if they're interested in chatting with you further or even enrolling in your boot camp?
Yeah, I'm super active on LinkedIn. So check me out there. I drop tips, tactics, and the occasional opinion. I try to keep it like fluff free and mostly beneficial. But also, I just opened up a website, ronenpessar.com. Soon there should be some more stuff on it other than just a landing page, but check it out. I'd love to meet any and every one of you. So if you watch this and you had some questions or follow on items that you want to go deeper on, like DM me. I'm down for a chat.
It's awesome. I love it. And we'll have links to all that in the show notes in the video description below, as well as access to the Sales RX community and engagement with the Sales Doctor. We appreciate everybody tuning in for today's episode, all of our Sales RXers, first-time listeners, and return listeners, and we will see everybody next week. Thank you, Ronen.